Hello, everybody. Welcome to Adobe Live. I am Spencer Nugent, Jamaican-born designer and creative based in Salt Lake City, Utah. As an industrial designer, we use text all the time to add additional context to the things that we might be designing and sketching. When it comes to 2D designs, type is really important because each font, for example, has its own character and characteristics that give it a certain feeling. Let's jump into Illustrator and take a look at some of these ideas. First of all, you will have access to this file. This is just a standard file that I have set up that you can play with and mess around with as well to kind of help you learn along the way. I can go through here and take a look at a variety of typefaces and see how this affects the appearance of the word. And scrolling through these typefaces, you can see each of them has a different character and personality to them. So let's try a few. We have this typeface called Blow Up. I'm going to select that one. And then we have a typeface here called Neato Serif and another typeface called 8 Heavy. Each of these typefaces has its own character. You might ask yourself as you're designing something or doing a layout, what each typeface says about the word that you've assigned to it. With this typeface Blow Up, what expressions come to mind? Or with Neato or with 8 Heavy, how might these typefaces convey a certain feeling to the people that might be looking at the thing you're creating? When I look at the typeface Blow Up, I think hello, but also it's a little bit hard to read. More on that in a minute. Neato Serif seems a little bit more classic, and 8 Heavy seems very chunky. It commands a certain visual presence. Going a step further, if we take a few different words, we can see how typefaces might affect your own feelings about those words. The word tasty, for example, set in Cooper Standard as opposed to Comic Sans, as opposed to this type called Co-Headline Bold. They all convey a different feeling related to that word tasty. You might even ask yourself what restaurants come to mind with each of those words. Which of these typefaces feels the most fancy, for example, and which of these typefaces feels the most serious? Sometimes the differences are subtle, but they are also meaningful and can help reinforce what you're trying to say. Even though the word serious is set in a sans serif font, they have a similar look and feel, but there are subtle differences that might be more in line with the messaging that you're trying to convey. It also gets really interesting when you create contrast in the messaging. For example, if I set the word quiet in a very bold display font, I can kind of juxtapose the meaning of the word quiet, which is to say subtle, low volume, low attention, with a very bold font. When working with type in Illustrator or other Adobe products, you are going to have some options presented to you. For example, the tracking between letters or the space between letters is something that you can adjust here in your character panel. As you experiment with the spacing between those letters, you might be able to enhance the messaging of the word or get to a point where perhaps the messaging does fall apart. And similar to the idea of juxtaposing quiet with a bold typeface, you can even juxtapose a small space or no gap with the concept of space to then create some tension in what you're doing. It just makes things a little bit more interesting. In some cases, you may not have a typeface readily available to express what it is you want to convey. Fortunately, if you use Adobe Creative Cloud, you do have access to Adobe Fonts. This is fonts.adobe.com, where you have trending fonts, new releases, and a variety of fonts that you can activate on your computer. Let's take this for example. If I'm working on a project and I want to find a typeface that communicates happiness or happy, I might think of words like joy or levity and so forth. On Adobe Fonts, search for a typeface that conveys that feeling by simply typing in the word happy, and let's hit enter. And now I'm presented with a variety of options for this word happy. And if I want to activate a typeface, I simply hit add family. And in a few seconds, I will have that typeface available inside of Illustrator for me to use. I can continue to search, and if I like something else, activate that typeface as well. And now in Illustrator, here's our default font, Myriad. Let's go ahead and apply our new typefaces. I simply type Zunga, and here it is. It's appeared in Illustrator, and now I can apply that to my word happy, along with the other typeface that I selected. And there we go. Now I have two additional options that I didn't have before available to me in Adobe Illustrator. So far, I've taken a look at single words and applied typefaces to them. But when you're dealing with more than just a few words, you're dealing with what's called a body of text. Now, a body of text needs to be legible. That means it needs to be clear so that people can read what's being said. Let's see what happens when we apply what is called a display font to a body of text. I'm applying the typeface blow up, and now you can see that the text is not very legible. Most of the examples I've shown have been a single line or a paragraph of text, but you can also put text inside of a path in Adobe Illustrator. For example, I have this path here. I simply click on the path, and now I have some dummy text that's shown up on the inside. And committing that text to the design shows that the text is constrained within that boundary that I had created. You can also modify the boundary if you need to. Here's an example using the pencil tool, and now my text flow has changed to match this new boundary. Another thing you can do with the text tool is you can type on a path. I have a path here that's curved. If I click on the path, you'll see that text appears on the path. And I also have some options like adjusting where the text starts. So I can click on this manipulator here and drag my text to start at a certain point. Not only can we type on the inside of a shape, but we can type on the outside of a shape. Click. I now have text that appears on the outside of the path as shown. One of the best ways to learn is to just make mistakes and get messy. So I hope you'll dig into the file and try some of these experiments if you've never done this before. When you are using text in Illustrator, it's not going to interact like paths with things that you might do like with the pen tool or pencil tool. To get your text to then be manipulated, you have to create outlines. To do that, right-click on the text and you can select Create Outlines. And now my text elements are paths. This means that I can move my text, for example, individually, just with the direct select tool. Or if I want there to be an iceberg on the top of each of these letters, I can simply use my pen tool to modify these. And now I have a different appearance for my typeface. We can take our text and we can outline it as well. Ungroup the text. And if you go to Object, Transform Each, play with the rotate command, but make sure random is selected. Hit OK. And now Illustrator has transformed each element in that word so that I have this crazy arrangement. And now I can add color to the individual letters since they are their own objects. All right, that's it for today. A quick look at text and some fun things that you can do. Definitely dig into the file and see what you can come up with. If you like the show, please like and subscribe. We'll be back with more amazing content here. I'm easy to find online. I'm at sketchaday.com on Instagram, or you can visit my website at www.sketchaday.com. Just don't forget the hyphens. All right, take care, and I'll see you later.